Feeling lost in your psych stats class? What if I told you the secret to acing it isn't math, it's psychology? In this episode, I'll demystify statistics so you can finally understand what your professor is talking about. Are you ready? Let's talk about it. Welcome to the first episode of Tawana Talks Psychology. In this episode, we're going to talk about quantitative reasoning. I know. A lot of people don't want to hear it. The main thing, especially if you're in a degree program, your goal is to just get it over with. But what if I told you I can give you key concepts of how to maximize your potential in the course? Well, first thing first, a little bit about me. I am Tawana McCoo. I am a master certified life coach and executive coach, as well as a consultant and a behavioral specialist. I have my master's in psychology, and I specialize in health psychology as well as organizational psychology. I also gained additional specializations in epidemiology and biostatistics. I'm currently in my Doctor of Psychology program, and that specialization is behavioral health leadership, and currently in the BCS sequence, which will lead to board certification and licensure in behavior analysis. Let's just say you are in the right place. Now, first thing first, let's learn what psychology is all about. It's about understanding and predicting human behavior, right? Statistics is just a language that we use that in a scientific way. It's the toolkit to help us grow from single observation like a roommate having a bad day to a general conclusion like whether getting enough sleep impacts mood for large groups of people. Let's start with the core concept, the difference between sample and population. Now, imagine your university entire student body. That's the population. It's the group you really want to understand the full picture. But you can't talk to every single student. It's impossible. So what do? You grab a representative group of students from different majors, different years, maybe a few from a fraternity or sorority, or a few from an honors club. That's your sample. The goal is to picture it as something that you're familiar with in your normal everyday life, and it will all make sense. In psychology, our research is almost always based on studying a sample to make educated guesses about the larger population. Your stats class is just teaching you how to make those educated guesses confidently. Now that leads us to our first major statistical concept. Central tendency. It sounds like a big, scary math term, doesn't it? But it's just a way of thinking about what's normal and what's typical. Imagine you're trying to figure out how many hours the average student sleeps per night. You ask your sample of 30 friends. The most common answer, the number that shows up often, that's your mode. The exact middle value, if you line all of your answers from lowest to highest, that's your median. And the classic average you learn in elementary school, like adding all of your hours and dividing by the number of friends, well, that's your mean. Which one is best? Well, that's a psychological question. Is one extreme, like a friend who pulled an all-nighter, skewing the results? Your stats class just gives you the tools to analyze that, but your psychological reasoning tells you why you might use one over the other. Now let's tackle variability. This is a psychological concept hiding in plain sight. A psychology knows that not two people are the same. We have variability. It's the human experience. In stats, variability is just a measure of how to spread out your data. The standard deviation is a classic example. It tells us each average distance of each individual score from a group average score. Now, let's put this into context. Imagine you have two samples of students, one from a group of pre-med track and one from a group, the art history track. You measure their weekly anxiety levels. If the standard deviation from the pre-med track group is much larger, and what does it tell you psychologically? It tells you there are more variability in anxiety, someone who's super stressed, and some are surprisingly calm. If the art history group has a smaller deviation, it suggests their anxiety levels are more consistent and closer to the average. Stats just quantify the human variations that you already know exist. Finally, let's talk about one big one, hypothesis testing. Have you ever thought about being a detective? This is where you become a scientific detective. You have a hypothesis like students who use flashcards will get higher test scores. In stats, this becomes a testable statement. You're collecting the data and then you're using statistical tests like a t-test to see if the evidence in your sample is strong enough to support your claim for the whole population. It's not about getting the right answer. It's all about gathering the evidence to make a conclusion. Just like in psychology, where you look at all factors influencing a person's behavior. In stats, you are considered of how likely it is in your results where you just due to random chance. The p-value is just your statistical burden of proof. It's the prosecutor key piece of evidence. And your stats class teaches you how to interpret the evidence and to present your argument. So next time, if you're feeling lost about your psych stats class, either if you're in a master's or a doctoral program, think like a psychologist. Ask yourself, what human story does this formula tell? What am I trying to learn about people? Remember, you're not a mathematician crunching numbers. You're a psychologist using the powerful set of tools to understand the complexity of the human mind. If you're a psychology student feeling overwhelmed by understanding quantitative reasoning and analysis, student problems, academic stress, or either just dealing with your research paper, you're not alone. I remember those struggles. I offer one-on-one psychological educational coaching to help you develop a better study habit or either understanding complex theories and confidently navigating your academic journey. Once again, this is not mentoring, this is actually guidance and psychological coaching. Let me be a person that you can rely on as like a partner so it can help you navigate the complexities of psychology. I have provided a link in my bio or where you can sign up for one-on-one support. Please make sure that you like and subscribe to learn more as I present more topics on psychology. So join me next time on Tawana Talks Psychology as we explore other psychological topics. Until then, remember, it is not just math, it's all in your head.